Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Sunday segment of Divine Femininity United. I am your girl, Dr. Bianca Miss B. Lee, and we are here for yet another amazing chapter of this phenomenal book that we are learning and reading. It's called Letting Go, The Pathway to Surrender, The Pathway of Surrender, written by the famous, wonderful, late, great Dr. David R. Hawkins. He has really been flipping us upside down in the most amazing, phenomenal, impactful, transformative way. And we are all the better for it. We're all the better for it. I hope you are. I certainly am, for sure. Okay. Letting go, the pathway of surrender. This today's chapter is chapter 4. They were going into and diving into apathy and depression. Apathy and depression. All right. So at any given moment, you already know how we do. Any given moment that you hear something, it resonates with you and things like that, then utilize the chat, utilize the comment section and things like that. We're airing live on multiple platforms. Clubhouse. We're airing live on Facebook in multiple areas, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Twitter, all of those things. Okay. So wherever you're listening from, thank you for your energy, your presence. I thank you. You have no idea how amazingly impactful your energy is. Thank you. Also, for those who are here, whether you're hearing now in real time, or we're going to come back and listen to it on the replay. We thank you for your presence, and we thank you for sharing. Please share, like, okay, because this is information that we all can learn. We're learning through how to let go, how to let go. And he's giving, as he does so beautifully, lay the foundation of what it means. What are we letting go? Okay. So last week we talked about the anatomy of emotions, and I love the title that he used, the anatomy of the emotions, the parts of emotions, the parts, and he broke each one down. And he's also in a chapter prior to that, he was talking about how some of the methods of how we emote, we can suppress, repress, we escape, the fight or flight mode, we express but yet still hold on to. We can express, but how many of us have expressed our feelings about a situation or a circumstance, and we just, every time somebody has 2 ears to listen, we are right there expressing the same thing over and over and over and over for years on years on years on years on years without actually letting it go, perpetuating the matter without letting it go. Okay, this book is teaching us how to do that. All right, so today's chapter is chapter 4, apathy and depression. Chapter 4, apathy and depression. All right, here we go. Apathy is the belief I can't. It is the feeling that we cannot do anything about our situations and no one else can help. It is hopelessness and helplessness. It is associated with such thoughts as, who cares? What's the use? It's boring. Why bother? I can't win anyway. This is the role exhibited by Eeyore, the gloom character in Winnie the Pooh cartoons, who says, "Oh well, won't do any good anyway." I tried to say it in his voice. "Oh well, won't do any good anyway." Discouragement, defeat, impossible, too hard, all alone, give up, isolated, estranged, withdrawn, cut off, desolate, depressed, depleted, unfulfilling, pessimistic, careless, humorless, meaningless, absurd, pointless, helpless, failure, too tired, despair, confused, forgetful, fatalistic, too late, too old, too young, mechanical, doomed, negative, forlorn, useless, lost, senseless, bleak, and blasé. The biologic purpose of apathy is to summon aid, but part of the feeling is that no help is possible. Much of the world's population is functioning on the level of apathy. For them, there is no hope that they will be able to meet their basic needs, nor will help be forthcoming from elsewhere. The average person is often apathetic in a number of areas in life, but only periodically faces overwhelming apathy about their whole life situations. Apathy indicates a lack of life energy and is close to death. Listen, apathy indicates a lack of life energy and is close to death. This was observed during the World War II Blitz of London. Infants were removed to nurseries and remote safe sections of England where their physical, nutritional, and medical needs were well attended. However, the infants developed apathy and began to fail. They lost their appetites and the death rate was high. It was discovered that apathy resulted from a lack of nurturing and emotional closeness to a mothering figure. It was an emotional state and not a physical one. Without love and affection, they lost the will to live. My goodness, man. So they were getting their needs met, as we see here, right? They were getting, the babies were getting their needs met, they were getting fed and all of those things, but it was the nurturing, it was the love, the affection, the emotional closeness that they lacked. And because of that, they lost the will to live. Babies now, you all, okay? In our country, we see depressed economic areas where an entire local population goes into apathy. When people from such areas appear on the television news, it is often with such comments as, when the welfare check runs out, I guess we just face starvation. There's no hope for us. Come on now. Now, I've heard that in several conversations, not even just on TV, but from people who are on the welfare system, you know, feelings of, oh, what am I going to do? And oh my goodness. And I need, go into panic and fear and things like that. Feelings of apathy about the letting go technique itself may appear as resistance. These may take the form of attitudes and thoughts such as, it won't work anyway, or what's the difference, or I'm not ready for this yet. I can't feel, I'm too busy. I'm tired of letting go. I'm too overwhelmed. I forgot. I'm too depressed. I'm too sleepy. The way out of apathy is to remind ourselves of our intention, which is to get higher and freer, to become more effective and happy, and to let go of the resistance to the technique itself. Next section, I can't versus I won't. Come on here. My goodness. I can't versus I won't. Another way out of apathy is to look at the payoff we are getting out of the apathetic attitudes. The payoff may be in the face-saving excuses to cover up what is actually fear. Since in reality, we are very capable beings, most I can'ts are really I won'ts. Come on here. Behind the I can'ts are the I won'ts, or the I won'ts is frequently a fear. Then, when we look at the truth of what is behind the feeling, we have already moved up the scale from apathy to fear. Fear is a higher energy state than apathy. Fear at least begins to motivate us into action. And in that action, we can again surrender fear and move up to anger or pride or courage, all of which are higher states than apathy. Let's take a typical human problem and trace how the mechanism of surrender works to free us from an inhibition. Public speaking. Oh, yes. Public speaking is one of the most common inhibitions. On the level of apathy in this area, we say, oh, I can't possibly speak in public. It is way too overwhelming. Nobody will want to hear me anyway. I don't have anything worth saying. If we remind ourselves of our intention, we will see that the apathy is merely covering up fear. Now, the thought of speaking in public is frightening, not hopeless. This brings about a certain clarity. The facts are not that we can't, but merely that we are afraid. As this fear comes up and is let go, we become aware of the fact that we have a desire to do the very thing that we fear. Yes. Now, when looking at the desire, which is blocked by fear and perhaps compounded by some grief over lost opportunities in the past, anger arises. At this point, we have already moved from apathy to grief to desire and up to anger. In anger, there's much more energy and capacity for action. Anger often takes the form of resentment, such as resentment that we agreed to the public speaking and now feel obligated to do it. Come on here. It's so true. It's so true. It's so true. Okay. There is also anger about our fear, which is blocked accomplishment in the past. which has blocked accomplishment in the past, and the anger leads to a decision to do something about it. This decision might take the form of a public speaking course. Come on. When we sign up for a public speaking course, we have already moved up to the energy of pride in that we have finally taken the bull by the horns and are doing something about it. On the way to the speaking course, again, more fear will arise. As this constantly acknowledged and surrendered, we as this is constantly acknowledged and surrendered, we become aware that we have courage in our capacity at least to face our fears and take action to overcome them. The level of courage has a lot of energy. That energy takes the form of letting go of residual fear, anger, and desire, so that in the middle of the speaking class, we suddenly experience acceptance. With acceptance, there is a freedom from resistance, which had taken the form previously of fear, apathy, and anger. Now we begin to experience pleasure. There is the self confidence of acceptance. I can do it. On the level of acceptance, there is greater awareness of others, so that in the speaking class, we become aware of the pain, suffering, and embarrassment of others in the class and begin to be concerned about them. With the emergence of this compassion towards others, there's a loss of self-consciousness. That's it, because you see yourself in them, right? With the emergence of selflessness come moments of peace. On the way home from the class, we experience an inner contentment, a feeling that we have grown, that we have shared with others. In the experience of sharing, we have forgotten ourselves for a few moments and have been more concerned with the happiness of someone else. We take pleasure in the accomplishments of others. In this state, there is a transforming grace, the discovery of our inner compassion, a feeling of connectedness with others, and a compassion for their suffering. With the full development of this progression, we might then share with others how we had a fear of public speaking, the steps we took to overcome it, the success we experienced, the increase of our self-esteem, and the positive changes in our relationships. Come on here. This entire progression is the basis of a great deal of the power of self-help groups. The sharing of inner experiences from the lowest to the highest levels on the scales of emotion. That which in the beginning seemed formidable and overwhelming has now been surmounted and handled with the resultant increase of aliveness and well being. This increase in self esteem then spills over into other areas of life. And the increase in confidence results in greater material abundance and capability in vocational functioning. On this level, love takes the form of sharing and encouraging others, and our activities are constructive instead of destructive. The energy radiated out is then positive and attractive to others, resulting in a constant positive feedback. You see the progression? Once we have experienced this progression up the scale of emotions in any one particular area, we now begin to realize that it can be done in other areas of limitation in our lives. Behind all of the I can'ts are merely I won'ts. The I won'ts mean I am afraid to, or I am ashamed to, or I have too much pride to try for fear I might fail. Behind that is anger at ourselves and circumstances engendered by pride. Acknowledging and letting go of these feelings brings us up to courage. And with that, finally, acceptance and an inner peacefulness, at least as it regards the areas in which has been surmounted. Apathy and depression are the prices we pay for having settled for and bought into our smallness. I'm going to say that again for the people in the back. Apathy and depression are the prices we pay for having settled for and bought into our smallness. Not only did you think that about yourself, but you believed it. And you operated from that belief. It's what we get for having played the victim and allowed ourselves to be programmed. Come on here. It's the price we pay for having bought into negativity. It's what results from resisting the part of ourselves that is loving, courageous, and great. It results from allowing ourselves to be invalidated by ourselves or others. Listen here, you all. It is a consequence of holding ourselves in a negative context. In reality, it is only a definition of ourselves that we have unwittingly allowed to happen. Listen, in reality, it has never been anything outside of you. The call always comes from inside the house. It's always an inside job. So in reality, it is only a definition of ourselves that we have unwittingly allowed to happen. Because nothing can take effect in you unless you give it permission to do so. The way out is to become more conscious. What does it mean to become more conscious? To begin with, becoming more conscious means to start looking for the truth for ourselves instead of blindly allowing ourselves to be programmed, whether from without or by any inner voice within the mind, which seeks to diminish and invalidate, focusing on all that is weak and helpless. To get out of it, we have to accept the responsibility that we have brought into the negativity. We have bought into the negativity and have been willing to believe it. Listen, the way out of this then is to start questioning everything. Everything. There are many models of the mind. One of the most recent has been that of the computer. We can look at the mind's concepts, thoughts, and belief systems as programs. Because they are programs, they can be questioned, canceled, and reversed. Positive programs can replace negative ones if we so choose. The smaller aspect of ourselves is very willing to accept negative programming. If we look at the source of our thoughts, begin to identify their origins, and stop the vanity of labeling them as mine. Hello, hello. I tell clients all the time, stop claiming that my anxiety, my depression, my disorder, my handicap. Why are you claiming that as yours? Right? If we look at the source of our thoughts, begin to identify their origins, and stop the vanity of labeling them as mine, okay, we notice that thoughts can be looked at objectively. We see that their origins were often the early childhood training from patterns, parents, family, and teachers, as well as dribbles and drabbles of information we picked up from playmates, newspapers, movies, television, radio, church, novels, and the automatic input from our own senses. All of this we went on unwittingly without our having exercised any conscious choice. Not only that, but out of our unconsciousness, ignorance, innocence, and naivete, plus the nature of the mind itself, we ended up as the composite of all the negative garbage prevalent in the world. Furthermore, we have concluded that it applied to us personally. As we become more aware, we begin to realize that we have a choice. We can stop giving authority to all the mind's thoughts, begin to question them, and find out if there is really any truth in them for ourselves. The feeling state of apathy is associated with the belief, I can't. The mind doesn't like to hear it, but in reality, most I can'ts are I won'ts. The reason the mind doesn't want to hear this is because I can't is a cover up for other feelings. These feelings can be brought to awareness by posing the hypothetical question to oneself. Is it true that I won't rather than that I can't? If I accept that I won't, what situations will be brought up and how do I feel about them? As an example, let's say we have a belief system that we can't dance. We say to ourselves, perhaps that's a cover up. Maybe the truth is that I don't want to and I won't. The way we can find out what the feelings are is to envision ourselves as going through the process of learning to dance. As we do that, all of the associated feelings now start to come up: embarrassment, pride, awkwardness, the sheer effort of learning a new skill, and the reluctance about the time and energy involved. As we replace I can't with I won't, we uncover all of these feelings, which can then be surrendered. We see that learning to dance means we have to be willing to let go of pride. We look at the cost and ask ourselves, am I willing to continue to pay the price? Would I be willing to let go of the fear of not succeeding? Would I be willing to let go of the resisting the effort it required? Would I be willing to let go of the vanity so that I could allow myself to be awkward as a learner? Could I let go of my stinginess and smallness and be willing to pay for the lessons to give the time? As all of the associated feelings are surrendered, it becomes very clear that the real reason is unwillingness, not incapacity. Mm, mm. It must be remembered that we are free to acknowledge and surrender our feelings, and we are free not to surrender. Oh, wow. As we examine our I can'ts to find out that they are really I won'ts, it doesn't mean that we have to let go of the negative feelings that result in the I won'ts. We are perfectly free to refuse to let go. We are free to hang on to negativity as long as we want. There is no law that says that we have to give it up. We are free agents, but it makes a big difference in our self concept to realize that I won't do something is quite a difference. It's quite a different feeling than to think that I'm a victim and I can't. For instance, we can choose to hate someone if we want. We can choose to blame them. We can choose to blame circumstances. But being more conscious and realizing that we are freely choosing this attitude puts us in a higher state of consciousness and therefore closer to greater power and mastery than being the helpless victim of a feeling. Come on here. I don't know if you all see this, but he is absolutely incorporating the learning that we got from Power versus Force and learning the levels of consciousness and things like that, putting it to action here. Come on now. He's making it relatable here. Next section, blame. Let's go. Let's get into it. One of the biggest blocks to overcome in getting out of depression and apathy is that of blame. Blame is a whole subject in itself. Looking into it is rewarding. To begin with, there are a lot of payoffs to blame. We get to be innocent. We get to enjoy self pity. We get to be the martyr and the victim. And we get to be the recipients. We get to be the recipients of sympathy. Perhaps the biggest payoff of blame is that we get to be the innocent victim and the other party is the bad one. We see this game played out in the media constantly, such as the endless blame games dramatized in a multitude of controversies, mudslinging, character assassinations, and lawsuits. In addition to the emotional payoff, blame has considerable financial benefits. Therefore, it is a tempting package to be the innocent victim, as it is often financially rewarding. There was a famous example of this in New York City many years ago. A public conveyance accident occurred. People poured out of the front door of the vehicle, then gathered in a small crowd, furnishing their names and addresses for future financial benefit. Bystanders quickly caught on to the game and secretly climbed into the back of the vehicle so that they could then emerge from the front as injured, innocent victims. They hadn't even been in the accident, but they were going to collect a reward. Come on here. Ooh, 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 ooh. My goodness. Blame is the world's greatest excuse. It enables us to remain limited and small without feeling guilty. But there is a cost, the loss of our freedom. That is the cost, the loss of our freedom. Also, the role of victim brings with it a self perception of weakness, vulnerability, and helplessness, which are the major components of apathy and depression. The first step out of blame is to see that we are choosing to blame. Other people have had similar circumstances, have forgiven, forgotten, and handled the same situation in a totally different manner. We earlier saw the case of Viktor Frankl, who chose to forgive the Nazi prison guards and to see a hidden gift in his experience at the concentration camps. Because others, such as Franco, have chosen not to blame, that option is also open to us. We have to be honest and realize that we are blaming because we choose to blame. This is true. No matter how justified the circumstances may appear to be, it is not a matter of right or wrong. It is merely a matter of taking responsibility for our own consciousness. It is a totally different situation to see that we choose to blame rather than to think that we have to blame. In this circumstance, the mind often thinks, well, if the other person or event is not to blame, then I must be. Blaming others or ourselves is simply not necessary. The attraction of blame arises in early childhood as a daily occurrence in the classroom, playground, and at home among siblings. It is so true. That's where we learn to blame. Blame is the central issue in the endless court proceedings and lawsuits that characterize our society. In truth, blame is just another one of the negative programs that we have allowed our mind to buy because we never stop to question it. Why must something always be someone's fault? Why must the whole concept of wrong be introduced to the situation in the first place? Why must one of us be wrong, bad, or at fault? What seemed like a good idea at the time may have turned out well. That's all. Unfortunate events may have just happened. It's true. And then two, how many unfortunate events have turned out to be the very best thing that ever happened to us? It positioned us in a way that we possibly had we not gone through that situation, we would have not experienced the benefits on the other side of it. So if we blame someone before then and then it turned out to work in our favor, is there a blame then? Okay, is there a blame then? Because there's been many times where I was, mistreated, lied on, thrown under the bus, but those same people that mistreated, lied, and threw me under the bus also positioned me in a way where I was able to have to start my first salon, then my second salon, then get picked up for as a cast member of a reality show, then get chosen as a associate producer for a late night talk show, then get positioned to write a book and release a book, to teach courses, classes, to be a platform artist, all of that, to be a president of a record label, independent record label, to be A&R management over artists and models and writers and things like that, to have platforms that I've had to be on panels and speaking engagements and public speaking events or whatever the case. That one wrong, quote unquote, led me to a bunch of rights. Hello. So who do I blame then? Right? That's the thing right there. That person was utilized. At that point, when you look back at the situation, even in the story of Christ and Judas, right? We can blame Judas for turning Christ in, right? But if not for Judas, Christ wouldn't have been able to fulfill his position, his duty, his task. Judas was necessary. But if Christ was in the sense of, oh, Judas, it's your fault and you did, and I can't believe you, man, I trusted you. If he was on that type of time, right, it would have been a whole different situation, right? He chose to see it from a different perspective, right? To overcome blame, it is necessary to look at the secret satisfaction and enjoyment we get out of the self-pity, resentment, anger, and self-excuses, and to begin to surrender all of these little payoffs. The purpose of this step is to move up from being a victim of our feelings to choosing to have them. If we merely acknowledge and observe them, begin to disassemble them, and surrender the component parts, then we are consciously exercising choice. In this way, we make a major move out of the morass of helplessness. It is helpful in overcoming resistance and taking responsibility for our negative problems and feelings to see that they come from the small aspects of ourselves. It is the very nature of the smallest part of ourselves to think negatively. So there's an unconscious tendency to agree readily to its limited viewpoint. But that is not the whole of our beingness. For outside and beyond the smaller self is our greater, higher self. We may not be conscious of our inner greatness. We may not be experiencing it, but it is there. If we let go of our resistance to it, we can begin to experience it. Come on here. If we let go of our resistance to it, we will begin to experience it. Depression and apathy, therefore, result from the willingness to hang on to the small self and its belief systems, plus the resistance to our higher self, which consists of all of the opposites of the negative feelings. It's true. It is the nature of the universe that everything in it is represented by its equal and opposite. Come on, Newton. Newton's law. Thus, the electron's equal and opposite is the positron. Okay. Every force has an equal and opposite counter force. Yin is compensated by the yang. There is fear, but there is also courage. There is hatred, but its opposite is love. There is timidity, but there is also bravery. There is stinginess, but there's also generosity. In the human psyche, every feeling has its opposite. The way out of negativity is therefore the willingness to acknowledge and let go of negative feelings. And at the same time, the willingness to let go of resisting their positive opposite. Depression and apathy are the result of being at the effect of the negative polarity. How does this work in everyday life? Let's look again at the example of someone's birthday that is approaching quickly. Because of things that have happened in the past, we have resentments and feeling and feel unwilling to do anything for the birthday. Somehow, it just seems impossible to get out and shop for the birthday present. We resent having to spend the money. The mind conjures up all kinds of justifications. I don't have time to shop. I can't forget how mean she was. She should apologize to me first. In this case, two things are operating: clinging to the negative and the smallness in ourselves, and resisting the positive and the greatness in ourselves. The way out of apathy is to see, first of all, that I can't is an I won't. In looking at the I won't, we see that it is there because of the negative feelings. And as they come up, they can be acknowledged and let go. It is also apparent that we are resisting positive feelings. These feelings of love, generosity, and forgiveness can be looked at one by one. We can sit down and imagine the quality of generosity and let go, resisting it. Is there something generous within ourselves? In this case, we may not be willing to apply it to the birthday person in the beginning. What we can begin to see is the existence of such a quality of generosity within our consciousness. We begin to see that as we let go, resisting the feeling of generosity, there is generosity. We do, in fact, enjoy giving to others under certain circumstances. We begin to remember the positive flood of feelings that comes up upon us when we express gratitude and acknowledge the gifts that others have given us. We see that we have really been suppressing a desire to forgive. And as we let go of the resistance to being forgiven, there emerges the willingness to let go of the grievances. As we do this, we stop identifying with our small self and begin consciously and become consciously aware that there is something in us that is greater. It is always there, but hidden from view. This process is applicable in all negative situations. It enables us to change the context by which we perceive our current situation. It enables us to give it a new and different meaning. It lifts us up from being the helpless victim to the conscious chooser. It lifts us up from being the helpless victim to the conscious chooser, deliberately, intentionally choosing. In the example given, it doesn't mean that we have to rush out and buy a birthday gift, but it does mean that we are now aware that we are in our current position out of choice. We have total freedom with greater latitude of action and choice. This is a much higher state of consciousness than the helpless victim who is trapped by a past resentment. Come on here. There's been people over the course of my life, man, that has done me dirty. Okay? Absolutely, positively dirty. And I have every right and every way to feel what I feel about them, but I choose not to. Number one, because I love myself immensely. I'm talking about fiercely. And I don't dare, I won't dare allow my being to have to filter those ugly energies day by day by day. It's resentment and unforgiveness and anger and hatred and all of that stuff that causes heart attacks, strokes, causes our organs to shut down and not function properly. Because when we were formed and when we were formed and created in love, in acceptance, in willingness, in forgiveness, in enlightenment, in generosity, in courage, in empowerment, in compassion, in confidence. That's what we were given. All of this other debilitating stuff, that's not ours. It's not ours. But if we choose to keep it ours, then of course it's going to take its effect. And if we continue to water and water and water the resentment, the anger, the hate, the rage, the betrayal, if we continue to hold on to that stuff, y'all, it will bleed out in every area of our lives. And it will manifest in a physical way in our bodies. Okay? Mm-mm. I refuse to hold on to that. And to be honest, I love people, I love everybody, but that person is not worth my happiness, my well-being. None of them. They're not worth it. They might think they are, but I promise you they're not. They are not worth your your peace, your joy, your love, your light, they're not worth that, man. Choose to let go. Intentionally, deliberately choose to let the stuff go. Okay. One of the laws of consciousness is we are only subject to a negative thought or belief if we consciously say that it applies to us. We are free to choose not to buy into a negative belief system. How does this work in everyday life? Let's take a common example. The newspapers report unemployment is at a high record rate, at the record rate. The television news commentator states no jobs are available. At this point, we are free to refuse to buy into the negative thought form. We can say instead, unemployment does not apply to me. Listen here. I said that in COVID. I said COVID may be happening, but COVID ain't happening to me. And to this day, I've never, ever, ever had COVID, nor have I taken that foolishness vaccination. Okay, that foolish poison and stuff. No, I don't care what you're talking about. Okay, feel how you're made, choose what you want, and I have respected everybody's choices. But honey, respect mine. My temple is a beautiful temple, honey. You're not gonna put that bathtub brew in me. All right. And so, yes, you can mitigate that no jobs available by saying to yourself, unemployment does not apply to me. I'm always working. I'm always relevant. I'm always increasing. I'm always expounding. There's always a customer. I'm always in high demand, and I'm always ready to supply. Hello. By refusing to accept the negative belief, it now has no hold over our own life. Examples from personal experience reveal that during periods of high unemployment, such as after World War II, there was no problem getting a job. As a matter of fact, one could have 2 or even 3 jobs at the same time. Dishwasher, waiter, bellhop, cab driver, bartender, factory worker, greenhouse worker, and window washer. This was the consequence of a belief system that said unemployment applies to others, but not to me. And where there's a will, there is a way. There was also a willingness to relinquish pride in return for employment. Exactly. Everybody who know you need a job, but because the only jobs that's available are fast food or cleaning cleaning something or cutting the grass, doing hard labor. Now pride wants to keep you where you at, unemployed. I ain't about to be working no. You ain't about to see me and no. I ain't about to be flipping no. Huh? Right. Okay. Another example is that of a belief system having to do with epidemic diseases. A few years ago, 14 acquaintances were observed closely during an epidemic of flu. We just talking about COVID. Of the 14 people, 8 came down with the flu, but 6 did not. What is the importance? What is important here is not that 8 people came down with the flu, but the 6 that did not. In any epidemic, there are people who do not catch it, quote unquote. Even during the depths of the Depression, there were still people who became wealthy and even millionaires. The thought of poverty was catching in those days, but somehow those people did not buy into it. Therefore, it did not apply to them. For negativity to apply to our life, we must first subscribe to it. And secondly, give it the energy of belief. Come on, come on. If we have the power to make negativity manifest in our life, obviously our mind also has the power to make its converse come true. Come on, that's it. That's it. Okay. Next section, choosing the positive. Choosing, because you got to choose it. It ain't gonna choose itself. You have to choose it. Because before you, just like in a scripture, it says, I place before you life or death. Then it says, choose life so that you and your seed may live, right? But at the end of the day, the choices are still available to you. You don't have to choose life. You can choose death, right? In this, choosing the positive when both negative and positive is presented to you. Choose. That takes deliberation. That takes intentionality. All right, here we go. One surprising effect of the willingness to let go of our inner negativity is the discovery that the polar opposite of the negative feelings exists. There is an inner reality that we can term our inner greatness or higher self. It has much more power than the inner negativity. In return for letting go of the payoffs that we were getting from the negative positive position, we are now surprised by the positive payoffs that stem from the power of our positive feelings. For example, when we let go of blame, we experience forgiveness. Our higher self, which we might say is the composite of our higher feelings, has almost unlimited capabilities. It can create employment opportunities. It can create situations for the healing of relationships. It has the power to create the opportunity for loving relationships, financial opportunities, and physical healing. As we stop giving authority and energy to all of the negative programs that stem from our own thinking, as we stop giving authority and energy to all the negative programs that stem from our own thinking, we stop giving away our power to others and begin to own it back again. This results in a rise of self esteem, the return of creativity, and the opening of a positive vision of the future that replaces fearfulness. We can experiment with someone with whom we have a poor relationship due to our holding of resentments. We can sit down and say to ourselves that this will merely be an experiment. The purpose for this, we tell ourselves, is strictly to learn. That is, we want to become familiar with the laws of consciousness and to watch the phenomena that occurs. We acknowledge the payoffs we have been getting from our negative feelings. We surrender each component and at the same time let go resisting that within us, which would be willing to heal the relationship. At this point, it is not necessary to have any personal contact with the other person. We are doing this experiment for our own sake and not for them. Come on here. We're doing this for our own sake and not for them. Well, I remember one of the people that really did me dirty, really did me dirty. I saw her as a sibling. I saw her as a sister. We grew very, very close. I started working for her business, but then I became manager. She made me manager of her business soon after. I would say about a month or two after I started working there. And before you know it, because I had more experience inside of the industry than she did, she saw that and made me manager. Right. So I was able to handle oversee a whole lot of things, hiring, disciplining and running the day-to-day operations of the business and things like that. Just keep order and structure of the place or whatever the case, especially in her times of absence. It got to a place where she was not, in every day. She would come in once a week because she knew that it would be handled. Okay. Her children called me auntie. Her husband called me sis. You know what I'm saying? Even her siblings would call me sis. So it was a lot of connections, a lot of closeness. I would do anything for her, right? And for them. But that person, you talking about dirty, did me so wrong. So wrong. Slander, threw me under the bus, lied. Oh my God, it was ugly. I would have never even thought that this would come from her. But I also, although it was devastating in the beginning, I will not lie to you. I was devastated. I was pissed off. I wanted to pull up. The Chi-Town girl in me wanted to pull up. Come on here. I would be lying if I said it was the opposite. Baby, I wanted to pull up because where she was located was right down the street from my new place of business. And baby, it took everything in me. I kept hearing, I'm going to tell you, I kept hearing, clear as I'm talking, be still and know. Be still and know. Be still and know. Be still and know. I got you. Be still and know. It had to be repeated because I'm telling you, the hood chick in me. Because if you know me, you know I don't mince words. I don't hold my tongue. I say how I feel. But I'm also Libra, so I try to do things very fair, and I try to be very conscientious of how I treat others. Right? I don't care how angry I am. I always consider that there is a person on the other side of my anger. There is a heart on the other side of my anger. There is emotions. There's a inner child on the other side of my anger. And so I try my best not to give them what they gave me. I try to step outside of the circumstance and see it from a space of, let me analyze what's happening here. Okay, this person is operating like this because there's something lacking in them. It has nothing to do with you. So it took me really, 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 because come on, I'm telling you, it took everything in me not to snap that chick's throat. Okay, can I be honest here? Can I be real on my own platform? Hello. It took everything in me. I'm telling you, because the smaller self in me, I wanted to go there, and I was justified in doing so. I was justified in doing so had I chose to go there. But then I had to say, okay, let me look at this from a space of my higher self, right? I had to look at it. I had to dissect all of the components. What is real and what's not? What's mine and what's not, right? And I had to look at it from a space of compassion. Even when I didn't want to see her as sister, I had to see her as my own self. Because I am you and you are me, right? So I can't add to your stuff. I can't do that to you because the love that I have for you is the same love that I have for myself. And if I love you like I love myself, then I would never allow that to happen to you, not even at my own hands. I don't care how justified I am. Okay? But I'm also using wisdom too. I know not to put you show me that I am not safe in your hands. You show me that. So wisdom says, extend love and grace. But wisdom also says, no, forgiveness says, love says, extend love and grace. But wisdom says, but also keep your distance. Huh? Keep your distance. Don't let her do it again. Because you know what I'm saying? You are growing and expanding. She has not, right? So if you were to, okay, forgive and forget, and then you go on and just skip on down the yellow brick road again, she in her current state is susceptible to doing this again. Says, come on now, come on, use your brain. Use the critical thinking, common sense. Let's use that. And I had to do that. I forgive, right? Extend love and light, wish her nothing but the best, wished her nothing but the best. But I also take my hands off and remove my goods. Because when you show me that I'm not safe in your hands, then it is up to me to govern me and understand my value and withdraw my energy from you. All right? Because you mishandled it in the first place. That goes for relationships, friendships, associates, business partners. Baby, it goes across the board now. Okay. So I had to do that. And then when I got myself to a place of actual forgiveness, I then reached out to her, not in a direct way. Oh, no, 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 no. Because nope. Again, wisdom. Keep your distances. Okay. Hey. All right. I sent her a message, a direct message, I believe via Facebook Messenger. And I released her. I said, I love you. I do. I love you so very much. Loved you then, love you now. Okay. I want nothing but greatness for you. I wanted nothing but greatness for you then. I want nothing but greatness for you right now. Sincerely. I love how the children have grown and have, doing their thing and how your marriage is flourishing and things like that. I love it and love it and love it even more. Okay, I release you. I promise you, I release you. Whether she hear it or acknowledge it or not, that ain't my business. I did my part, right? You have to choose positivity. You got to choose to be free. And I love me too much to keep me shackled up. I don't do shackled. I'm too royal for that. I'm too divine and sacred for that. We don't do shackles over here unless that's the type of kink I'm into. Hello, somebody. But we don't do shackles over here. You understand? We are free and free indeed. All right? You have to choose that. All right? So here we go. Here we go. As we look within ourselves, we ask, what is the anger covering up? Underneath the anger, we are likely to find fear. Aside from the fear, we also find jealousy. We find competitiveness and all the other little components of the feeling complex that have blocked the relationship. The simultaneous letting go of the negative and letting go of of resisting the positive result in a shift of inner energies, and there is an accompanying a subtle change in our self-esteem. Letting go of our resistance to the willingness to have something positive happen in the relationship is all that is necessary. Come on. Letting go of our resistance to the willingness to have something positive happen in the relationship is all that is necessary. We can then just sit back and watch what occurs. In this experiment, we are not interested in whether or not the other person gets it. What did I just say? I'm not looking for her response. That ain't what I did it for. I did that for me, okay? That was a me thing. I did that to get this done on my side. Whether she do what she do with that, baby, by all means, that's on you. Okay. So we are not interested in whether or not the other person gets it. We're only interested that we get it. We are only interested in moving our own position to the matter in the matter, and then we just watch what happens. A very rewarding experience usually ensues, which will take different forms depending on the circumstances. Exactly. I don't, whether I hear from her or not in life, that's perfectly fine with me. Okay. But I had to free me. I had to free me, baby. Okay. Another cause for the apathy is the residual of a previously experienced traumatic overwhelm, which has not been resolved. The mind projects onto the future with the expectations that the past will be repeated. That's where anxiety comes in at, or fear, right? When we discover this unconscious dynamic, we can choose to look again at the emotional complex, disassemble it into its component parts, let go of the negative aspects, and let go of our resistance to the positive ones. As we do this, our perspective of the future changes. We can forgive ourselves that at the time of the previous emotional overwhelm, we simply didn't know how to handle it. There were a lot of residuals that left us emotionally disabled at that time. But because in the unconscious mind, there is no such thing as time, we can choose at any time in the present to heal the past event. As we go through our own emotional healing for our own sake, that past event now begins to take on a different meaning. Our higher self begins to create a new context to it. For we can see the hidden gifts. Yes. We can end up acknowledging with gratitude that it gave us a new opportunity to learn, to grow, and to acquire wisdom. One of the most common areas in which we see this emotional crippling is after divorce. Listen here, all too often it is followed by bitterness and the impaired capacity to create a new loving relationship. The unwillingness to let go of the blame continues the emotional crippling, which can go on for years or even a lifetime. It's so true. When we come up upon bitterness, what we have really discovered is an unhealed area in our emotional makeup, and the effort that we put into healing it will bring enormous rewards. In any situation which involves suffering, we have to ask ourselves, how long am I willing to pay the cost? What were the karmic propensities to begin with? How much blame is enough? Is there a time to call an end to it? How long will I hang on to it? How much sacrifice am I willing to pay to the other person for their wrongs, real and imaginary or imaginary? How much guilt is enough? How much self-punishment is enough? When will I give up the secret pleasure of the self-punishment? When does the sentence come to an end? When we really examine it, we will always find that we have been punishing ourselves for ignorance, naivete, innocence, and lack of inner education. We can ask ourselves, when was I ever trained in the techniques of emotional self healing? Come on here. When I went to school, did they teach me courses on consciousness? Absolutely not. Did anybody ever tell me that I had the freedom to choose what went into my mind? Absolutely not. Was I ever taught that I could refuse all of the negative programming? Nope. Did anybody ever tell me the laws of consciousness? Absolutely not. If not, why beat ourselves up about having innocently believed certain things? Why not stop beating ourselves up right now? We all did what we thought was best in the moment. It seemed like a good idea at the time, is what we can say about our past actions and those of others. We've all been unwittingly programmed without our conscious assent. Out of our confusion, ignorance, and naivete, we bought into the negative programs. We let them run us. But now we can choose to stop. We can choose a different direction. We can choose to become more aware, more conscious, more responsible, and more discerning. We can refuse to sit there like a blank tape recorder, taking in every program the world hands us. The world is only too willing to exploit our naivete and play upon our smallness with all of its vanities and fears. When we become aware of how we were manipulated, exploited, and taken in, anger is going to come up. Be ready to handle it. It's okay to be angry. It's better to be angry than apathetic by a long shot. In anger, we have a lot of energy. We can do something about it. We can take action. We can change our mind. We can reverse direction. Then it's easy to jump from anger to courage. On the level of courage, we can see it, examine it, and observe how it all happens. We begin to see that our smallness was a bill of goods that we bought. In that investigation, we will stumble upon our own inner innocence. We will rediscover it. We can let go of a lot of guilt. When the guilt goes, necessity for self-punishment goes with it, and that lifts us right out of apathy and depression. We can choose to revalidate ourselves, our value, and our worth. And we can see how others were programmed just as we were. They too were doing what they thought was best at the time. We don't have to blame them or ourselves anymore. We can give up the whole blame game as obsolete and ineffective. Come on here. The next section, the company we keep. Look here, come on. This thing is stepping on the toes of today. Do you hear me? Come on, I'm here for it. Are we ready to let go? Are we ready to see ourselves free? Are we ready to move into positivity and more lighter, happier, peaceful, joyous days? Are we ready to do that? This is necessary, y'all. Let's do it. The company we keep. Another valuable technique for getting out of apathy, depression, and situations which are predominantly being run by the thought, I can't, is to choose to be with others who have resolved the problems with which we struggle. Come on here. You're going to be like who you hang out with. What they say, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Oh, yes. Here we go. This is one of the great powers of self-help groups. When we are in a negative state, we have given a lot of energy to negative thought forms, and the positive thought forms are weak. Those who are in a higher vibration are free of the energy from their negative thoughts and have energized positive thought forms. Merely to be in their presence is beneficial. In some self-help groups, this is called hanging out with the winners. The benefit here is on the psychic level of the consciousness, and there is a transfer of positive energy and relightening of one's consciousness, okay, of one's own latent positive thought forms. In some self-help groups, this is called getting it by osmosis. It is not necessary to know how it happens, but merely that it does happen. It is common to witness the phenomenon. For instance, in our society, most people have been trained to be logical and left-brained in their orientation. However, some people from birth are right-brain oriented. Such right-brain persons are characterized by greater powers of intuition, creativity, telepathic communication, and awareness of thought forms and energy vibrations. Frequently included among these capacities is the capacity to see the energy field around the human body called the aura. When in the presence of the people with this capacity, it becomes possible to share that capacity. This was true even as a skeptical, logical, left brain male scientist who was in the company of people with capacity to see auras. Upon following their instructions on how to see the aura, surprisingly, there was indeed a visible field of light around people's heads. In particular, the aura around one man seemed to be almost like ectoplasm, hung predominantly over his left ear. On the right side of the head, however, there was practically nothing to be seen. To know whether this phenomenon was real and not coming from the imagination, it was confirmed by poking someone nearby who was adept at seeing auras. She also saw an aura that was very wide on one side and practically absent on the other side. The capacity to see auras are available only when the presence of others with that capacity. Okay. Upon leaving the instructional situation where there had been people who could see auras, the capacity was no longer there. Got it. Got it. In the following years, when the company of friends who could see auras, the capacity returned. One time, the presence of a woman psychologist at a clinic whose job was that of psychic diagnosis by means of observing people's auras and their changing color patterns, there suddenly was a capacity not only to see auras, but also to see them in their scintillating colors and watch the aura change in response to fluctuating emotions. Gotcha. Ooh, that would be an amazing trait and ability to have. I don't have that. I have a lot of them, but I don't have that one. Just by talking with her, that capacity was suddenly available. My goodness, that is amazing. It is as though when we are in the proximity of the auras of people with certain capacities, some transfer of ability can take place. Simply put, we are either positively or negatively influenced by the company we keep. It is unlikely that we will overcome an inhibition if we choose to be in the company of others who have our same problems. This phenomenon was evident in the case of a divorced woman who came for a consultation. She wanted to know whether or not she could have psychotherapy. Her complaints were a recurrent ulcer and migraine headaches. As the story unfolded, great bitterness over an unfortunate traumatic divorce came forth. She had joined a conscious raising feminist group, she said. She described this particular group as almost completely made up of divorced women who were also bitter, angry, and hateful of men. As a group, they were getting a lot of payoff from their negativity. In reality, their lives were forlorn or rather pathetic as they struggled to regain their self esteem through extremes and marked emotional imbalance. Absolutely. After listening to her story and investigating her life circumstances, it was suggested that instead of psychotherapy, she follow one simple recommendation for a period of 3 months. If it didn't work, then she could reassess the need for psychotherapy. The recommendation was merely to discontinue her association with the group and with her bitter divorced friends, and instead seek the company of people who had successfully reestablished relationships despite former divorces. Mhm. At first, she resisted and claimed that she had nothing in common with these group members. Then she acknowledged two basic facts. First, it was far more energy saving to foster relationships with positive people. Secondly, one of the laws of consciousness is that like goes to like. Yes, like attracts like. Bitterness attracts bitterness, whereas love attracts love. She asked herself, where has my bitterness taken me? Have I gotten anything out of it that is positive and helpful? As time progressed, she stopped spending time with her group and began to pursue relationships with healthier, more balanced people. In the company of happier people, she had an exhilarated awareness of how much negativity she was holding inside of her body. She began to be aware that she was consciously holding negativity and choosing to hold it. And she began to look at the cost of such negativity. Her whole social life changed. She became smiling and happy. Her migraine headaches disappeared. Eventually, she fell in love again and joked that falling in love was the best cure she had ever discovered for an ulcer. If we find ourselves in the state of apathy, we can discover the underlying program by asking ourselves what we are trying to prove. Are we trying to prove that life is rotten, that this is a hopeless world, that it wasn't our fault, that one can't find love, that happiness is impossible? What are we trying to justify? How much are we willing to pay to be right? As we acknowledge and let go of the feelings that arise in response to these questions, the answers begin to appear. My goodness, y'all. Ooh, this is good. Let me tell you something. That was the end of the chapter 2, by the way. Let me tell y'all something. This book is reading us for filth. Okay. It is really reading us in the best way. I love this for us. I hope whether you're listening in real time or listening at the replay, I hope you are getting out of this what you need and what you deserve. You hear me? So that you can let go in the most majestic, beautiful, divine way, so that you can get yourself back to yourself, your higher self, your greatest self. But some things we just got to learn to release, because it is easily, as the Bible says, it is easily besetting us. What weight do we need to lay aside? Okay, we can try to convince ourselves that we're over it, We can convince ourselves that I'm not dealing with that. Oh, that's old news. Oh, that's, or time will heal. Let me tell you something. The only thing that will heal is healing. Okay? If anything, time time perpetuates, because with time comes the opportunity to continue to repeat and relive these negative feelings, rethink these negative thoughts, re-believe these negative beliefs. Too much time. Let go. Learn to let go. Learn to release. Learn to value yourself in such a divine way, in such a sacred way, that these things, they are not purpose to. They cannot. They have no right. They have not paid the price to live inside of you anymore. My goodness. The next chapter, chapter 5 is grief. Chapter 5 is grief. Ooh-wee, ooh-wee, ooh-wee. What perfect timing for this chapter as well, too. There's a lot of things happening overall. There's a lot of things going on overall in the realm of grief. And this is perfect. This is perfect, because this can kind of present itself as a preventative, measures, how to go about grieving. Of course, we've all experienced a loss of sorts, but to redefine what loss, quote unquote, LOSS, means will help a lot, because to die is not to die, it's not to leave. Death is an illusion. So hopefully he jumped, knowing the teacher that he is, that he was, that he is, then I'm quite sure he's going to touch on this. And I look forward to it. If you do not have this book, it's always readily available for you to receive this ebook free of charge to you. Okay? Inbox me with your email address. Send me a message however you can, from whatever facet you need to. Reach out to me. Send me a request with your email address, and I'll send it over to you. It is free of charge to you. No fee is required. I mean, gratuity and donations and seeds are welcome, but they are not required. Okay, because it does cost me to do what I do. Okay, I am a nonprofit organization, so it does cost me to do what I do, but it's okay. It's okay. If you don't want to sow a seed, it's perfectly fine. The gift from me to you is still the same. Okay. Again, seeds are welcome. They are not required. Okay. Alrighty. So send me your request to my email address, info@biancamissblee.com. You can visit my website as well, biancamissblee.com, and you can see who I am, what I do, what's out there for you. You can also check out the services that I offer and things like that. Okay. For yourself, merchandise that is also available on Amazon and on Walmart.com. Wherever you get it, it doesn't matter. Okay. It doesn't matter, as long as you get it. All right. Follow my social medias: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, all Dr. Bianca Lee. Okay. All righty, y'all. Listen, I'm gonna give you back your Sundays. I try not to keep you for too long. But we got to get down with the get down. We'll be back here on Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Divine Femininity United. I love you. I mean it. There's absolutely, positively nothing you can do about it. Don't you even try it. We'll see you back here on Tuesday. Peace.